The political landscape in Zimbabwe is getting more and more tense as we see a tussle of votes between the main competitors, which are President Emerson Mnangagwa and, of course, the Triple C leader, Advocate Nelson Chamisa. We've seen a lot of groupings coming to show off their support. Of course, what happens in Zimbabwe is people are free to pledge their allegiance to ZANU-PF or Mnangagwa, but they can't do the same for Chamisa. We've seen so many groupings for ED, from teachers for ED, from doctors for ED, apostles for ED, and many more, but the same can't happen for Chamisa, for, of course, the fear of their life. People can just come through and say we are for Chamisa. People fear for their lives. Is the political landscape of Zimbabwe is very toxic. So now we've just gotten information that the war veterans are cornering President Mnangagwa, demanding that he should approve commensurate benefits, including loan guarantees and rebates for duty-free car imports before they could back his re-election bid for the 2023 general elections. Of course, what happens is elections draw nigh, everyone wants to get a piece of the cake, so they come with demands, knowing that the president can give in because he so desperately wants the vote. So the ruling ZANU-PF party recently formed a new wing, the War Veterans League, to strengthen and broaden its campaign strategies ahead of the polls. A ZANU-PF Central Committee report tabled at the party's elective congress last month revealed that war veterans were demanding more benefits, including loan guarantees in financial institutions, in order to incentivize them to drum up support for the ruling party. So they said consideration should be made to award commensurate benefits to vetted members of Zimbabwe, ex-political prisoners, detainees, and Restricted Association ZEBDRA, war collaborators, and war veterans cadres to avoid disgruntlement ahead of the 2023 harmonized elections, the report read. So a few months ago, government said 160,000 war collaborators had been successfully vetted and were now eligible to receive their payouts after missing out on the 1997 first round of disbursement. So, of course, this was subject to criticism to a lot of people who were of the view that why does the number have to increase? I think it was somewhere around 110,000 in 1997, and now it's 160,000. It must be vice versa, because some have died over the past few years, and some have even some can't just go through the vetting process, but the number of the war veterans seems to keep increasing. The report also added that the veterans' pensions should not be static, but should be pegged as an equivalent of a salary scale in the civil service, so that the government does not have to constantly review the amount. So government should honor its promises and debts, as well as enforce its own rights against the war veterans and their dependents amicably without resorting to litigation. Pension should not be reduced upon the death of the member in order to cater for the surviving spouse and dependents. The ex-combatant said a facility should also be introduced to allow them to import motor vehicles duty-free, and facilitation should be made for war veterans to have access to affordable capital finance from the banking institutions, whereby the government should be called upon to offer guarantees in instances where the much demanded collateral is not available. Yes, they have got a hefty of demand. They have piled up their demand, and they have said, please, Mr. Mnangagwa, if you want us to vote, to drum up support for you in your bid to be the next president, please, you should meet these demands. And they feel the party should engage the government for the establishment of the War Veterans Bank as part of the economic empowerment agenda. The party engages the government in order to establish a quota for war veterans in mining and to facilitate access to capital and machinery. This is too much even for the president, I think. But they are saying that if you want us to draw more supporters to you, if you want the War Veterans League to be very successful, you should meet this demand. And the report also added that the party directs the government to accord qualified children of war veterans opportunities to access employment and other empowerment facilities in recognition of the crucial role and sacrifices made by their parents. War veterans have in the past been used as ZANU-PF stormtroopers, perpetrating violence and killing perceived opposition supporters, with the police turning a blind eye during election campaigns. So we are going to take you a little bit backwards in 1997, where thousands of former freedom fighters were given a lump sum of 50,000 each after they protested against lack of pensions, and this led to a spectacular collapse of the Zimbabwean dollar. And analysts yesterday dismissed the war veterans' demands as extortionist and illegal. The demand by war veterans is extortionate and reflects what the ruling party politics has become. It's completely unacceptable that they want to be paid from state coffers for the support they give to the ruling party. This constitutes a corrupt and unconstitutional conflation of the state and the ruling party, political commentator Efinwe said. Another analyst, Mechumelis Moyo, said, continuing to demand more is like seeking to hold the president and country hostage and must stop at some point. Another analyst added that the war veterans, like anyone else, is suffering from the effects of ZANU-PF rule. They must join other Zimbabweans and demand something bigger and meaningful, which will result in real change. So those are the sentiments of the war veterans in Zimbabwe. They are saying, pay us so that we may support your re-election bid. Anokonika inemfaro, the Honorable Madiva.